Getting started with Swagger and Cherwell's API can be intimidating and confusing. I'm Scott Valler, Senior Solutions Architect and Consultant with Excalibur Data Systems. Let's break this down. We're going to start in the Cherwell admin tool to set up a REST API connection. We're going to go into security and edit the REST API client settings. The API is just a way to talk to Cherwell and tell it what to do, like give me a list of teams or update a field in a business object. In order to do that, we have to first go ahead and create a client connection. When you create the client connection, Cherwell is going to generate a client key, which we can copy. And in order to talk to Cherwell's API, you need three things. You need this client key, and you need a username and a password. The username is a Cherwell user. So whatever security group and teams that Cherwell user belongs to, that will control the access and the data that this API connection will send back to you and the actions it'll take for you. You can toggle the API off and on here, and you can allow anonymous access. I discourage you from allowing anonymous access and highly suggest that every connection must be authenticated. So you have to give it a username and a password to get in so that you control what data can be pulled out of Cherwell. You'll notice that the client key is read only. I cannot type in what I want. I can't copy it from a different system. So the only way to get this client key from prod to dev is to do a dev refresh from the prod database. And when prod database gets copied down, this client key will go with it. If for some reason this client key has been compromised, or I just want to refresh it so that I have new credentials within my connections, I can come up here and tell it to go ahead and regenerate the key. The previous key is now permanently gone, and I now have a new key that I have to copy to my clipboard, so I've got it ready for when we pop over to Swagger. And that's it. I'm gonna go ahead and save this one. If I'm using Python or PowerShell or some other third-party application to talk to Cherwell and I wanna know what the URL is to talk to the API, while I'm here, I come up here to File and say Set API URL. And it will display the URL for the API. To go to Swagger, I'm just going to go to the URL for my server, whatever that is, like mycompany.cherwellondemand.com/Cherwell API. That is case sensitive. When I hit that, I'm going to get redirected to the Swagger page. Swagger is an interactive tool that does two things. It documents the API, so it tells me what can I do, as well as allow me to try and do these commands and give me a little more explanation around them. So the things you're going to see here is at the top. This is just the page I'm on. Right here in the middle, though, where it says Client ID, this is where we're going to paste in the client key that we got from the admin tool. The commands are broken into categories. We've got stuff around approvals, stuff around business objects, and when you click on them, they expand. You can also show and hide it. Let's go look at teams. So I'm going to give you an example of how to use this to create a team, add a user to a team, kind of list the teams. We're going to use teams as our example. One thing you'll notice with the get teams is there's a V1 and a V2. Those are versions, so there's version 1 and version 2. So as Cherwell decides to enhance the API or add functionality to get teams, they create a new version. Version 1 is set in stone. So if you've got code that uses version 1, it can still use it. If you want to update your code or set something up new that uses the features of version 2, then you would take advantage of what version 2 could use, and you would call this URL address to run the version 2 of get teams. The anatomy of one of these APIs is pretty simple. The top just tells you what it does, right? This is going to get the IDs and the names for all the teams in the system. If I succeed, I'm going to get some data back. And this is what the data is going to look like. Right now I've got it set to JSON. You can choose different types, but the default's JSON. So I'm going to get a JSON array of the teams that gives me the team ID and the team name. And then after the array, I'm going to get an error code, a message, and tell me whether there are any errors or not. So I know if I succeeded. At the bottom, there are parameters. For this particular one, I'm just telling Cherwell, give me a list of teams that are in the system. So there's really not a whole lot of parameters unless I really want to control the language or the locale. So the first thing I need to do to use this is come up here to the right, and right now I'm not logged in, so I have to click it, and I have to type in a username and password. I'm in a demo database, so I'm just going to use CSDadmin. So now that I'm on, I can do anything. And you'll notice if I just go to the one above it here, I'm also on in that because the Swagger web page here that we're on, the whole page I'm authenticated. I don't have to put my username and password on each of these to try it. So I can just pop around and just do whatever I want. Right now I'm going to tell it, let's try this out. Let's see what I get. And this should return a list of all the teams in the demo database. And I get a response. And the first thing you'll notice from the response is if I were to use curl, which is a command line application, it shows me what the header looks like, that I'm accepting JSON, what the authorization is with my current bearer token, and all the way at the end, it's going to tell it, what URL did I go to, which was the teams, Cherwell API /API v2 get teams here, right there. And then I'm going to pass in my key, and I've got the bearer token. This one doesn't have any other parameters, otherwise they'd also be here. Scrolled too far. There we go. Again, here's the URL. So if I want to, I can just copy this right out. I can put this into my PowerShell script that I'm playing with and go for it. I also get a response. You'll notice here's the teams array. Here's the list of teams. So first level support, second level, buildings, IT, HR, all the stuff that's out of the box. And then I got my error code, my message. I didn't get an error. And I got a 200, which means successful. And then here's the header for the response. So this can be useful if I'm working in another application. So I have some idea what am I going to get back? What should I expect to see from this connection when I talk to Cherwell? The other nice thing is I can copy this. So if I want to, I can copy it, paste that into PowerShell, and play with it and play parsing it and making sure that the rest of my code works before I even worry about trying to talk to Cherwell. So right now I know, hey, I've got a list of teams. And again, if we came up here above when we were first looking at it, it said it would give us an array of teams with the error codes. That's what it did. So there's our list of teams. I said we're going to create a team. So that would be this one here, the save team. You notice I'm still logged in. And the response I'm going to get back is the team ID for the team that I just created, any error code, any message, and the status. Now, you notice that this says I could create or update a team. So as we go down here in the parameters, you'll notice that when I send this request, I have data that's required now. And over here it says, to request the object to create, give it a team name and type. Right? Or to update a team, I have to give it the team ID. Now, off to the right is an example of the data that I have to send here in the request field. I can just sit here and start typing it, just click it, and it'll copy the prototype over for you. So let's go ahead and make a new team. We'll call this our testing team, is our description from the API. Let's just call this test at company.com. Not every parameter is required. If I don't define the image, then Cherwell will just use the default image. So what I can do is delete that out. I have to make sure that I keep the commas in place between values in this JSON object, because it has to be a legal JSON. The last one doesn't have a comma after, it just has the closing brace. So I just have to be careful of the semantics of it. Team ID. So if I'm going to create a team, I need the team type and the team name, but I don't need team ID. If I want to update a team over here, I need the team ID. So I'm going to get rid of the team ID as well. But I do have to give it a name. A name is required, right? So to create a team, I have to have the team type and the team name. It says so right here. So we're going to call this one test. And you'll notice our prototype defaults to a user group or a team that's of type user. I could have put in customer work group here instead. I can't highlight well, but I could put customer work group in. instead of user. I'm just going to use my default language and locale, so let's just try that out. It's running over here, and it's done. Here's the command it sent, right? I've got my header, it's JSON again. I'm going to accept back JSON. I have my bearer token. And then I have at the very end down here, when it wraps around, I have a JSON that's part of the body, which was our description, our alias, our team name, and then the key that we're sending. So here's our response. I got back a team ID, and I am going to copy that team ID to my clipboard real quick. This is not going to go away, by the way. It'll stay here, but make it a little easier. Because I'm going to put somebody in the team, and I need the team ID to do that. So there's our new team. There were no errors. I got a 200, which was successful. If I'd have gotten an error, it'd be a response code of 400 something, like 401, 402, something like that. Now, the thing to keep in mind is whatever we're doing in Swagger, that's live. So that team just got created. If we pop over and go look at the teams, there's that test team that I just created from the API with that fake email address, right? And again, I didn't have to set the email address because if I hadn't, it would have defaulted to sending to all the members who have a valid email address. It doesn't have any members. Okay, so let's go back to Swagger. So that's my team. I could now update that team if I wanted to by using, if I come in here and clear this, if I copy that over, well, if I change the description to say, my updated description, and it said here that to update a team, you have to use the team ID. That's the required value. So I don't need this image or email alias. I don't need the team name or the team type. But I do have to have the team ID. Which I got right down here from the team that we just did. So let's see if that works. Okay. I just got a 200. And if I go back to Cherwell, go to my teams, you're going to see that my description has updated. Now the last one I'm going to do here in Swagger, add a member to the team. Just going to add or update the team members. I need the rec ID of a user. So one of the things that I can do is I can come down here and say that I want to get, let's see. Let's get a user. Oh, here's a V3, right? So V1, V2, V3. Let's get a user by their login ID. You notice that the login ID is required. So let's do Henri. So that's his Cherwell internal credentials. So let's see what we get. We got a 200, so we're successful. So this is his display name. And these are the fields we know about him. His record ID. So through the API, I could have told Cherwell, maybe I had created a new user. I got the rec ID from that. And I just created a new team. So I need a rec ID to put Henry in the team, or Henry, excuse me. So let's go ahead and pop back up here to save team member. And let's go ahead and put him in. So we're going to pop over here. Let's make him the team manager. We'll set this as his new default team. And it says down here whether to set it. You can leave it. But the thing that I have to put in, though, is the rec ID. Let's make sure I got that right. That's, what was that? 06 Bravo. And his record ID is 06 Bravo. Okay, so I've got the right rec ID. Copy and paste it for me so I don't mess up. We'll go ahead and just make this his default team. Now I need the ID of the team that I want to put him on to, which I have right here for the team that we were updating and the one we just created. So we're going to copy that, 55 Bravo, and we're going to place that here in place of the team ID. Let's go. So again, I'm doing live actions directly in Cherwell using Swagger. No errors. I got a 200. Come over here to teams. Let's go check out our team. Henry is now a member of the team. He's also the team manager here because I had set that. And if we go ahead and go to users and go to Henry here, and his teams, test is his default team because we told it to set that as his default team through the API. I hope you have fun exploring the Cherwell API and seeing what you can do with it. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to us at Excalibur Data Systems. We would love to help you out. And I hope you guys have an awesome day, and I'll catch you on the next video.